morning, good afternoon, good evening, good whatever time of day it is, wherever you are right now. Thank you for tuning in to the Conversations with Dr. Don show. The show is produced and broadcast from the Portland, Oregon area. And for your first-time viewers, Conversations with Dr. Don is an ongoing series of one-hour standalone talk shows where I interview interesting people like most of you out there about who they are as unique, one-of-a-kind individuals, and about whatever it is we've decided to talk about tonight. And my guest this evening is Rahul Ravel. And I know his mom and dad because we belong to another organization and meet with them sometimes, and we have a pretty good time. And if I have half as good a time as I've had with the mom and dad, we're going to have a fine time this evening.
Looking forward to it.
So the ground rules are pretty simple. If I ask you a question that you don't want to answer, then tell me you don't want to answer it. And occasionally I'll make a mistake and have to withdraw a question, but that's rare. I can usually sense pretty good where to go and where not to go. Nothing else comes to mind right now. And your attire looks okay. You're not too busy for my camera and patterns. And how are you feeling right now?
I'm enjoying the moment. I'm glad to be here.
Mm-hmm. You're not scared or nervous?
No.
That troubles me because whenever I have a new guest for the first time, I'm always nervous.
If I have something to be nervous about, maybe it's showing off some of my gray highlights, maybe a little too much. So that's about the only thing I can think of right now.
Okay, so we're going to talk about helping others one smile at a time. And the show goes in two major segments. The first one is the bio, where I talk to you about who you are and things like that. And then the second half, pretty much, however much time is left over, is about the topic, helping others one smile at a time. And as you can tell, I'm nervous, bumbling my words. Okay, so personal stuff. If I were to ask your best friend, who is Rahul, what would your best friend say? Be your best friend. Rahul is what?
They probably say there's two sides to Rahul.
Be your best friend.
So
Rahul is.
Best friend. You know, when I think about Rahul, I think of somebody that, one hand just likes poetry, loves the outdoors, loves photography, kind of a quiet soul. But then he's also the type of person that you'd get a text at 1 a.m. saying, "Hey, I'm up climbing Mount Hood, where are you?"
And that's how you are.
He leads an interesting lifestyle. I don't think there's anything normal about him.
Wonderful. I'm liking you already. Yeah, and when and where were you born?
I was born in Gujarat, India, which is the left diamond tip of India. And I was born there in 1964. Mm-hmm. And my family immigrated to the U.S. when I was 2 years old. Mm-hmm. So when I talk to Indian people, they look at me and say, "You're pretty much American." Americans say, "Well, you're kind of Indian," and I'm a citizen of the world. I say, let's not worry about that. It's all global, planet Earth. And that usually solves conversation.
Yeah. Why were you born?
I think everyone's born to have some purpose in life. What that purpose is, I think it's just determined to each one. I'm amazed where people find their purpose early in life, whether it's service, music, athletics, education, whatever it may be. But I'm also thankful that I'm still trying to figure it out. I've had a lot of fun experiences along the way, so I'm still searching for that.
Uh-huh. You're enjoying the search?
It's about the journey sometimes, isn't it?
Yes. How has the journey been so far?
Journey's been wonderful. I'd say that for all the experiences that you can have in a lifetime, if you have to die once to have all these wonderful experiences life has to offer, I'd say you're getting the better end of the deal.
Yeah. So you touched on your national and cultural heritage and a religious preference. Do you have one now?
You know, I call myself sort of a westernized Hindu. You know, a lot of the times you adopt the religion of your parents or your family.
Yes.
But I had wonderful occasion to be exposed to a lot of different religions. I went to a Christian high school. I've had friends that are Jewish, Buddhist, all different denominations.
Friends.
And I think I've just isolated it to, I like some of the systematic approach to life that I've seen in Hinduism. And so I kind of call myself a westernized Hindu.
So approaches to life in that tradition. Say a few more words about that.
It's about karma in action, where ultimately you can impact life in a positive way, but the returns that you are going to be getting from that, they might not be realized. Maybe explaining that a little bit more. Sometimes you're just doing the right things. You know there's a benefit out there. You just may not be seeing it, but you have to accept that you're doing the right thing.
Karma?
Karma.
Okay.
Which means that I'm going to do something in this lifetime, but you know what? I'm not going to get that. It's like winning the lottery ticket, as it's been up to $1 billion. You've got the winning lottery ticket, but the you maybe 2 generations from now gets to cash it in.
So you believe in reincarnation?
Yeah. I believe that there's just too much in life where I don't think it is a one-stop ride.
When you are reincarnated, what species will you be a part of? For me, I want to come back as a Labrador Retriever because I think they have a better life than humans do. For you, what do you want to come back
Well,
as?
I think I've got to stick with the human route. I think there's a lot of help that can be done in the world right now, so I think I've got to stick with the human route, and maybe once that's taken care of, I can come back as something a little easier or something like that. So,
what were you in the past life?
Oh,
and if you don't answer any questions,
well, I think I'm probably a mongoose, a very curious animal that's going here and going there, and so
yeah.
Yes.
What are you practicing religion-wise nowadays? Is still the same thing you mentioned a moment ago?
Yeah. I don't know about practicing it. It really, there's a practice of going through the rituals, and so I say prayers to the universe out there. But I'm not really that much into the display of it. It's really more on the action, and somewhere religion stops a little bit short when you start getting into action-oriented things. And so I'm not sure if I'm explaining that right, but it's really more my religion is when I'm taking actions.
Sometimes things are pretty hard to explain, even for those who really work at it and are very bright. For starters, yeah. And I hear you. Your formal education, say a few words about that.
Formal education, I have a undergrad in technical journalism from local Oregon State University, and I have a master's degree from the University of Oregon in information management. So I think by accounts that makes me a platypus.
Ooh, my head's hurting just considering what you said. Platypus, I like that.
A platypus. Well, it's interesting because a lot of people assume that I have some type of science or technical background, and they're quite surprised when they're hearing a journalism undergrad. And so it's really where my love and my passion is.
How did you arrive at that sort of a decision?
It was kind of easy. I was going into software engineering and realized I just didn't have the aptitude, nor I could see myself just being in front of a computer for many hours at a time. But I've always loved writing. And so the happy medium was technical writing. I could still have my passion, but still keep a foot in the technical world.
Mm-hmm. Do you do any creative writing?
Lots of creative writing.
Oh, what kind of essays or poetry?
Usually, not so much. I call them just trip reports and experiences. When I go off and do a lot of my outdoor activities, the memories and the experiences are so strong that I just love writing about them.
Oh boy!
And then trying to find that creative expression where I can share with someone, here's sunrise that you may see from Portland, but here's sunrise out in the Columbia Gorge.
That's fascinating.
Here's the sound of the wind as you're hiking in Central Oregon. And so there's a lot of those things that while a camera can take 1,000 words, sometimes you do the 1,000 words and let the people imagine what you're describing in their own minds. And they're always going to come up with things far more phenomenal than what a picture would have taken.
Fascinating, fascinating, yeah. Have you published?
Not counting technical books, no.
Uh-huh. Do you have any collections that are hard copies? Are they on your computer? Your writings that you're talking about?
Yes, no, they're all on my computer, just waiting for a rainy day to be I think they need some editing, but sorting, and then I just have an amazing amount of notebooks. I always keep a notebook in my car, in a backpack, and so.
Wonderful. Would you guesstimate how many of these pieces do you think you have? You probably have not considered that question.
I have, because as I've been rummaging, opening boxes, trying to clean out things from the basement, I'm finding books that have appeared. So I would at least maybe 50. No, not 50 writings. Maybe more than that. I probably have at least 20 to 25 journals of some sort. So. Probably
the treasure.
Yes.
When will you do something about this collection?
Oh.
Or do you plan to? A better question.
Well, if my agent, also known as my mother, tells me I should be doing a lot with.
She's an artist.
With these things, and so yes, she's a published artist, and so something will have to happen more sooner than later for me to get some of these at least published or at least compiled.
Do you think your readers would really appreciate what you've written about? Generally speaking, because there's certain.
Well, everyone can be a critic. But if you just reach one person that says, wow, that was, that had an impact at me. Thank you for taking the time to create it and then share it, then that's all that matters. And so.
And apparently you get real joy out of what you're doing.
I do.
Yeah.
I do. I'm active in the outdoors, and there are many occasions where I'm the only person there, and so the photography I take isn't for me, it's to share that with someone else. It's like out of all the billions of humans on the planet, I was there at that one instance, seeing that one scene. It was great but why couldn't I share it with 10 others, 100 others, 1,000 others? And the same things with the writing, anything creative.
It'll never be the same tomorrow or a month from now or a year from now. It's unique at that moment in time.
And others get to live that moment over and over and over.
Do you meditate?
I do meditate.
Oh my gosh. How long have you been meditating? For many years?
I have been trained in meditation when I was a teenager, and there are periods of my life where I've needed the meditation, I've enjoyed the meditation, and you know, as getting older now, I'm realizing there's a lot more, I'm appreciating it more and more, just to be able to get to that clarity of mind. Particularly in this age where everything is sound and noise and media, and you can't go anywhere without hearing or talking. There's always some buzz going on. But it's funny, you have all these internet cafes, but did you ever think, are there any silent cafes? No cell phones, no TVs, just where everyone can just kind of experience just some quiet. I think a lot of people would go nuts in something like that.
We don't have many people like you running around to gather with the kind of experience you're talking about. I did transcendental meditation years ago, and occasionally I do stretching every morning now because I'm so old. I have to do it. It's not a choice because it gets stiff. But then I thought, before I start anything, I've got to simply let go. And what do you call that? Where relaxing different parts of the body in turn. I forget the name of that. I got 3 or 4 thoughts going on in my mind right now. And I start into it, then another thought will come up as I'm laying on my back on the floor, stretching this way. And my mind is still busy, and I gotta now stop thinking and experience. And I go back and forth, and I still need to take the time to go further and deeper into letting go and simply being in that moment. And I'm so distracted, yeah. Particularly how the culture is nowadays. And I find I'm offended in the gym because of the background music that's played for one purpose, to keep us upbeat and get us energized. And can I have some silence? And I find that when I'm driving along, you know, on those moments when I'm looking at the trees and the leaves changing, and after a few seconds, I find I'm thinking about what I'm thinking about. And hell, I've lost it all over again. Help me, doctor. But I hear where you're coming from, and perhaps after our meeting this evening, I will discover a way to slow down enough where I can appreciate those moments, those precious moments of simply experiencing my being.
It's a wonderful, wonderful experience when it happens.
You ever hear transactional analysis? Eric Berne, I'm okay, you're okay.
Boy, it's that has been out for a number of years.
Yeah, but anyhow, one of his ideas is intimacy is the time structure that is the most rewarding, more stimulating, more pleasure. There's a whole bunch of time structures where people are involved or less involved and more centered and more being, and this is called intimacy. And Eric Berne postulated that if a human being had 8 minutes of pure intimacy with another or with the world or with being, then that human being has had a successful life.
8 minutes?
Yeah, pure intimacy. And there's a continuum, you know. Okay. Complete alienation, complete intimacy. And I want to, in my remaining years, to have more times where I have those kinds of experiences, or it's hard to characterize them as experiences, just simply being. Maybe we should talk some more, and you can teach me some more about how to do what I'm thinking I want to do.
I'm sure it'll be a lively discussion.
So, your education, and you talked a little about what you're doing now in your work.
Right. So in the high-tech realm, I'm a project manager.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you think of all the different pieces that go into any type of high-tech piece of equipment, there's the software and all the different flavors of that, there's the hardware, and then somebody has to put all of this stuff together. So it is pretty complex, and so I've been doing that for most of my career. And for the masses that aren't in high tech, my joking job description is, I heard blind cats across ice floes. What do you mean? I have to get a group of people to do this in that general direction. Well, it can't be that difficult, Rahul. Yes, it can.
It is.
And so
you have appreciation when you finish a project or a major segment of it, such that you feel a sense of accomplishment or completion, a satisfaction, for want of a better word. Do you have those occurrences?
Yeah, it's evolved over the years. It used to be by standards where you would get this award for completing a project or a program, or that award. But over times now, once you've done enough of those, then the reward changes. I have this concept that there's some box that I will always have under my desk that will be more heavier, and I'm thinking it has books, but it has these awards in them that I now have to carry, and they're from 2000 and 1992, and I call it plaque buildup. I now have these plaques that really meant something at one point in time, but now they're just extra weight to carry. Now the reward is I was able to be part of a team of a group of people that we were able to go from here to there 5 months later, a year later, and we were able to do something really significant and overcome all the complexities. And so for me, the accomplishment is, hey, team, we were able to do that. That's much more satisfying than the plaque that will look really good, and then a year later, 5 years later, it will just become an extra burden to carry around.
Yes. Before I went back to school and became a clinical psychologist, I was a technical writer for years.
We share some of the same DNA.
And there was, I'm working on secret projects, space exploration and Russian activities with rockets, that sort of thing, and missile launch systems in the U.S. And I was with a team that went to the Air Force bases where these missiles were primed and ready to go. And my primary job was validation and verification of the existing manuals and material needed for the technicians or the Air Force guys to maintain these systems such that they can go. And I didn't know very much about generating electrical power with diesel engines in these silos underground. And I was assigned that responsibility to trace the fuel and the air that went into the diesel engines, and out of the other end with a further breakdown through the generation system and the electrical power for various functions throughout the whole system. And I had a really good time. And finally, when I finished, when I was doing writing instead of validation verification, I could say, it works because the Air Force tried it and it's now working. And I had that sort of accomplishment even when I was doing writing of progress reports on missile systems, reporting Russian rockets taking off from Asia. And I was working with a bunch of engineers and scientists who analyzed the vapor trails and all that sort of thing. And I'd have inputs from maybe 5 or 6 engineers or scientists, so maybe 10 or 12. And this is a 60-day report. And at the end of 60 days, I'm supposed to have gathered all of the input from all of these brilliant minds, and I'm just an old tech writer, and make it all a coherent package such that the reader, it makes sense and it flows. And I'd have a scientist or engineer who I expected to get 8 pages in print, and he'd turn up with a half a page, or vice versa. And it's up to me to create something, a bridge. So I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it almost as much as I enjoyed being an aircraft mechanic before I became a tech writer. I'm 90 next year.
Congratulations.
This year, as a matter of fact.
This year.
So I've had a lot of experiences. So you get me started, see, and I'm telling you my story, and I want to get your story.
We can always switch chairs. I think your stories might be a little more fascinating than mine.
You're delightful. You're delightful. I'm glad you're here. So let's see if we can continue with a few more questions. You have a partner, a wife, boyfriend, girlfriend?
Lovely wife, Janine.
And kids?
No kids. We have our 3 animal rescues, two wonderful dogs, and the one-eyed cat, whom we've named Blink. Only fitting.
And you've had them for a while?
Yes. We've had rotating animals. You know, you come through and see them through their cycle of life, and when the time is right, then you invite some more into your home.
I bet you have some stories if we had another couple of hours.
That's probably one where pictures and videos would there's a lot of humor.
Of course.
In watching them, so.
And the communication between you and the dogs or the cat, it's absolutely unique.
I don't think they get enough credit for picking up on the human emotions.
Oh,
yeah. I think sometimes the world needs a big puppy. The world could use some puppy therapy, and that might solve a lot of things. It would take a really big puppy, though.
Yes, yeah. Political persuasion, do you hazard a guess about where you are in the political continuum? Left, right, center, over the edge, one side or the other? What? I'm an old-fashioned liberal myself.
Yeah. You know, I've never labeled myself in terms of left or right. It kind of goes back to...
I'm not talking about labeling yourself.
Okay.
Excuse me. I don't have to do that.
I don't know if I have an opinion or an answer on that.
Okay. All right. That's okay. The difference between sympathy and empathy, you see a difference in those two, and what is the difference?
That is an intriguing question. I think sympathy is actually the feeling an emotion in response to a situation, and it could be, when we think of sympathy, something in terms of caring, maybe a little sadness. When I think of empathy, I think of you're truly understanding the emotion somebody's going through. It could be jubilance, it could be sadness, it could be anger, but you're feeling a connection because either a past experience or because there is that connection with someone.
There's an experiencing rather than thinking about it or labeling it to be. I feel, as I'm saying this, I'm really at this moment feeling what it must be like to feel the way you're feeling right now. For me, there's a difference, a peculiar difference. And the more empathetic I can be, the more connected I feel with another human being, or vice versa. There's a unique kind of connection. We're beyond what our gray matter can do.
And I don't think empathy should probably be used more often. If we go into a Hallmark store, and there's a wonderfully big section on sympathy cards, but you don't see any sections on empathy cards. Maybe the world could use some more empathy cards.
Yes. Well, you're every bit as intriguing as I thought you might be. And I don't polish the apple that much. All right. I had... did I read these questions back to you again?
Yes, you did.
Being service, I actually did. Pardon me. I've been so busy. So it's time we take a break and catch our breath. Okay, Mr. Director, let's take a break. Okay, we're back. Thank you for staying tuned. For you viewers who missed the opening of the show, Conversations with Dr. Don is an ongoing series of 1-hour standalone talk shows where I interview interesting people like most of you out there about who they are as unique, one-of-a-kind individuals, and about whatever it is we have decided to talk about tonight. And I smile every time I get to this point, even though I've been saying this for years and years, because I get halfway through it and I bumble a word, you know.
Uh-oh.
Being a writer, so I laugh at myself rather than be embarrassed. Okay, tonight we're talking about Rahul Ravel on helping others, one smile at a time. And I read this because I know it, but I want to be sure I get it right. It's really embarrassing to blow the title of your show. Okay. Now, we have a series of questions. You gave me some, and then I created a few more to sort of expand this a little bit. What about the title? How'd you arrive at that title? What does that mean?
Well, the way I look at it, sometimes just helping others starts with a smile. And while you may not get one back, but sometimes when you need help, sometimes you're the one that needs the smile. So either way, if there's a smile involved in the transaction, something good must be happening.
Yeah. You're unique in that you're provoking thoughts from me, and we're interviewing you. It's really interesting. I think about when you said that, one of my favorite things to do in the supermarket, for example, is to catch a family or a mom and a kid, and mom's busy putting the groceries, and the little baby is maybe 3 or 4 months old, maybe a little older, and baby and I will see each other, and mom doesn't know what's going on, and each baby is different as to how they react and the way they react, and how, like this morning, I had a little fellow who must have been 7 or 8 months old, and I couldn't get a response from him. His little eyes were blank. Usually there's a hint of a smile or some sort of special connection. And I didn't trouble myself with that. I just waited and waited and waited. And finally, I think I got some reaction, but I'm not sure. And that's the first time it's happened. Because I can relate to animals, little dogs particularly, and babies, just magically if I look at them long enough and kind of tilt the head a little bit with a little maneuver like that and get a response. And when I get one who loves to laugh and play, and mom's waiting them out of the market, and baby's looking over his shoulder, trying to still see me. A smile
goes a long way.
And that sign, be kind even unkind people. Occasionally there'll be someone I'll meet in the public, and they'll see my sign, particularly little white-haired old ladies, you know, can hardly walk, and they'll see my son, and they get so moved, and they get this softness in their whole being. Can I hug you? Wow, that's a smile. And I wait for those moments, and that mix, it's like Eric Berne talked about in intimacy and pure intimacy.
Yep.
That approach is pure intimacy. That's sort of a connection that goes beyond description with our cortex. Smiles.
But when it happens, you can feel it.
Yes.
The effect
yes.
is tremendous.
Yes. The feeling.
What it is, I think it takes 17 muscles to smile and 43 facial muscles to frown. So we're genetically built that we should be smiling more. It's far easier.
Yeah. Oh, you have been around a while and you've learned a bunch. And how much of that did you get from Dad?
Well,
how much from Mom?
Actually, I cheated. I counted the muscles.
You're bad. All right. About the title, huh? Yeah, one smile at a time. You smile fairly readily when you're in public.
I think so.
Did you
But I have friends that are far more better than I consider them professional smilers. I try to emulate them.
Nobody can even. It's such an never mind, I'm going too far. What are challenged adults? You mentioned challenged adults.
Yeah, I think, over the years we refer to them as handicap, but it's such those lesser than us, those that are challenged. It's so tough to put a label on somebody that I'm going to say has some physical handicap or mental handicap without feeling that you're insulting them. So I think the correct term is to call them challenged adults.
Yes. I never heard that explained that way before. Do you think our president is challenged?
That is an interesting thought-provoking. That might be a topic for another show.
You never know where I'm coming from.
That might be a politically correct answer I just gave right now.
Yes, yes, especially in this company. How did you get interested in being service-oriented, and what is service-oriented?
Yeah, I think there's two things, but the more intriguing one is I think everyone goes through life, and parents or friends, everyone does some service, maybe at a church, at a community center. But if I have to think of just one defining moment, I'd been working for Intel for probably 10 plus years, and I had seen some, probably internally in the internal company email about they were looking for volunteers. And it was for the Oregon Special Olympics, helping out with their state games in Bend, Oregon. And I thought, wow, I love Bend, I love the outdoors. I was single, I've got time on my hands, let me go help out. And I mentally focused and said, I'm gonna be moving people in and out with wheelchairs, and I might be getting drooled on, and you know, there might be angry people and sad people, the athletes. And I thought, okay, it's the right thing to do. I'll just focus my mind and go and help where I can help. And I went there and I helped, but I did not realize the connection that I'd be having with athletes. I'd been an avid outdoors person since I'd moved to Oregon. But here's a kinship that I'm having with these competitors. And the weekend flowed like I wasn't volunteering. It was like I was blessed to be hanging out with these people. And I remember coming back thinking that was one of the most fun, wonderful experiences I had. And I was supposed to be giving something, but I got something back in return. And I distinctly remember it might have been 2 to 3 months where I just think back on that weekend, and it brought a smile to my face. It says, what a wonderful experience. And this was about 1997 or 1998. I thought, why not make that part of my life? If it gave me that much joy and it was something that just felt natural to go do, there's got to be other opportunities out there. And so I started seeking those opportunities and have continued with Special Olympics and also with our local THPRD, Tualatin Hills Parks and Recreation group, which has a weekly event. And
say that title again, Tualatin Hills.
Tualatin Hills Parks and Recreation District has all the community centers in Washington County.
Mm-hmm.
And at the LC Stir Center, they have one program, which I discovered in 2005. In Monday evenings, that's where I go to volunteer time with, I don't call those the participants, I call them friends. It's like me seeing friends every Monday night and we're gonna go do some activity. But I'd have to say that was probably the life-changing moment where it just changed my whole mindset that the stereotype when you're doing service to somebody that it should be painful and uncomfortable, and that's how you know that you're helping someone out. And I realized, no, helping people out doesn't have to be that way.
And the feeling lingers.
The feeling lingers. In fact, it's kind of funny. I used to joke around with my teams back at Intel. I get more smiles and hugs on Monday night than I would get from them during the week. And naturally, some of them would then offer to smile at me and hug me, of which, no, you don't need to go that far. Yeah, I'd have to say it's never stopped. I get more out of it than I put into it. And I know somewhere at that point in time, like taking a picture or writing a poem, I made a difference. I made a difference somewhere. I may not be able to say that in everything I do in the course of a week, but at that point in time, I made a difference for somebody.
Yes. They experienced you, and something about them, if I may, made them available to have that kind of experience beyond the traditional ways of experiencing another human being. There's other senses beyond those that we are aware of. I would imagine I'm talking to someone who knows more about what I'm trying to talk about because of your religious your belief, philosophy about Hinduism, like that. I have enough curiosity to dabble a little bit to get a little flavor of what you may be about as I'm experiencing you. And I find it particularly enjoyable to have a person like you and be aware pretty shortly in our discussion that there's something about you that I sense with my other senses, if I may. And that's what it's all about, being. How often do you meditate?
Now it's about twice a day.
Twice a day.
Ideally, I would love to, emulate. I'm sure some of my family members that are getting up early at 4 or 5 a.m. But I think twice a day, just to start out the day in a nice, calm manner, and then when you think about just what you have to experience through the day, where you're a coworker, you're a parent, you're a child, you're paying the bills, you're driving a vehicle. We play a lot of roles, and often we have to switch among each role like minutes at a time.
Yes.
Being a human being takes a lot of energy. So I think just that twice a day, taking some time out to just rest, recharge, recover, and then go back at it again.
There's some advantage to being as part of a primitive, quotes, culture, or civilization, like some of the few remaining like that in South America, where you don't have to deal with all those sorts of things occupying your mind. Huh. Yeah. You've been doing this for 10 years. What has kept you going? What has kept you going for this 10 years? Just the learning and experiencing more of what's important, what it's all about?
You know, some journeys, until you've taken the longer journeys, you don't really see the differences that are happening. I think it's just human nature not to be able to know everything 6 months from now, 1 year from now. But we know growing up, evolving, your values change, your senses of happiness, familiarity change. Here's somebody I'm meeting for the first time, and you never know whether over half your lifetime you still have a friendship with that person. So the people I engage with, it's just over this course of time where they know me, I know them. You never know if they are going to remember a face. You never know if they're going to remember a name. You never know if they're going to remember something about you. But over these 10 plus years, some of them know my name. Some of them know my wife's name and ask, hey, how's Janine doing? Some of them know that we have dogs. And after a while, I feel that I've known them and I can communicate back with them in whatever realm is important to them at the time. Here's somebody that isn't a heavy metal rock and roll, which you wouldn't think, but I know he loves rock and roll, and I know he'll tell me the latest heavy metal CD he has. Here's somebody that loves getting together with her sister, and I love, hey, did you do anything fun with your sister? You went to the zoo? That's great. What did you see? What did you do? And so I think just a connection gets formed that you wouldn't think that's there until you walk in and it's like, wow, these are like friends I've known forever. And it's not something that I think could happen if I had done a one-time event for volunteering or even 2 or 3 years. It's something that, you know, even now I'm getting new realizations of things that I'm discovering after 10 plus years.
Yeah. There's always something new under the sun.
And there's always things to learn if you just open your mind up to think, I think they're happier and lead far more simpler lives. Maybe there's something something I should be learning here.
Yeah. So about how long do you meditate in those twice a day, roughly?
Meditation is
what
akin
kind
to
of
working
meditation?
out.
Do you have a name for the kind of meditation?
I think it's just transcendental meditation, where you're, everyone thinks you clear your mind and empty the mind, where the purpose of meditation is focus, bring everything into a mantra or a word or whatever saying you want in your head, but you just slowly bring your mind to focus.
Given me years ago, and I still remember it.
That's probably a very special one. Those aren't given out lightly. But if you haven't been meditating for a while, I've got to sit down in a quiet space and, wait a minute, did I leave the refrigerator door open? Nope, let's sit down. It's like, I think I'm pulling something in my hip. So I think normally it should be about 20 minutes. I think I'm up to 10 minutes now, which I think is great. And like any exercise or anything, it takes the body a few weeks to get used to it. And you just welcome. At some point you'll know, wow, I was able to sit nice and still. I don't have to worry about the body. I can now focus on stilling my mind. And so that will come with time. And you can do things like make sure the refrigerator door is closed before you start meditating, and just that's one less thought you have to worry about.
I got a habit now that's ongoing, more so now that it's been for a long time. I usually take 15 minutes or so, maybe 20 at the most, variable. And do a lot of my stuff on the floor, and I just stretched in a certain one to start things off, to loosen the back, lower back up, and lay on the floor. And as I get down on the floor, I think, oh, I got to remember so-and-so. And then I get up and I piece of paper and I write it down, and then I go back on the floor, and this is, I'm laying down again, there's another one. And I got to learn to quiet all those damn things, and I got to get better at it, okay? It's a confession.
It takes time. It's just human nature to go here, go there, think about this, think about that. So, and I think just with everything going on in life, I think you're doing that 24 hours a day, so.
I find singing is very useful for me in that regard. I started studying music and voice about 3 years ago. And I've been neglectful because I was away on vacation and rehearsal and practice and like that. So I tried this afternoon for a bit, and totally rusty because I haven't sang to myself even. And that is very rewarding and very centering and such. It's like a new language, if I may. I'm listening to music and my favorite singers, and with a different appreciation. Bocelli, and Andres Bocelli is an
Andre
example.
Bocelli, yes.
Yeah.
Coming to Portland this June.
Yeah. Did you see his special on PBS, Love in Portofino?
Did not see that. Was that recently?
It was recorded, I think, a couple of years ago. You know, when it's pledge time, they bring these back up again. And it's just absolutely divine. So my point is that music, hearing beautiful voices and beautiful singing and beautiful compositions, a whole range of qualities, of types of music, it does something for me like nothing else I can think of.
You know, you are touching upon we have various activities with some of the volunteer groups. When there's music night or dance night, that is the one activity where everyone can participate. Whether they're off to the side listening, whether they're dancing, whether they're like karaoke singing along with it, but I've noticed out of all the activities, it's the one thing that binds everyone together. And so I think that connection that we feel like you're feeling with this, when you get a group of people together and music playing, it allows everyone to, there's no mental, there's no physical difference. Everyone is there able to experience it. And so it's been really kind of fascinating out of all the activities to see where everyone participates when music is involved.
Wow. I'm not sure what my expectations were of us reading together what would go on. And I knew it would be interesting from the little information I had about you and the few words we exchanged. But experiencing you and visiting with you has been, I'm sure I'll be thinking some more about what's happened with us this evening. And with any luck, we'll find some sort of reason to say hello or something again in the future. And I'm being very careful about what I'm saying to be sure it's honest. I'm a humanist, and that's required to be honest and straightforward. And thank goodness I don't have to polish the apple or blow smoke at you. No, we're running out of time. Will you talk to the viewers and tell them anything you want to tell them about whatever we talked about or anything else on your mind?
Yeah.
Take about a minute or so.
I think it doesn't take much to live a service-oriented life. In a way, we're all providing service for others around us, but there are areas where people can help out. And so the internet is a great place to find volunteer activities. And and go experience one. Give a half hour, an hour, give a day, and I'm pretty sure you'll experience what I did. What you get out of it will be immensely joyful, peaceful, wonderful, more than you get into it. And you'll want to do it again and again. So I encourage people, go out, volunteer, find an activity. I think it'll make a difference in your life. It'll make a difference for others.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. And I'm so glad you came.
Thank you for having me.
You betcha. And thank your mom and dad for producing you.
I'm reminded of that often.
So, a couple of PSAs. I'm an ACLU member. Oh yeah, American Civil Liberties Union. And I've had a few people who quarrel with me about the good that the ACLU does. But I've been a member for 50,000 years now. Continuing a member of the American Civil Liberties Union. Now, civil liberties are so terribly important, especially nowadays. And we've got to end corporate personhood. To say that money is not speech and corporations are not persons. Go to movetoamend.org and amend the Constitution to say that more clearly in our Constitution. Thanks for watching. Thank you for watching. And remember KFC, I got to say that clearly. Not that KFC, not Kentucky Fried Chicken, Dr. Don's KFC. Kind, friendly, and charitable. Be kind, be friendly, and be charitable to you too. And you too, and you too. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time. Good night.